Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one we are going to stick to Sweden, but we're going to head out to Gotland for this review, the larger of the two islands off the southeast coast of Sweden, and we're going to return to a brewery that have featured on the channel twice before, and I was impressed with the other two beers that I had from these guys. This style is quite different from those other ones though, and it is a style that I've been getting really into over the last couple of months and weeks and stuff like this actually, so really curious to see how these guys interpret this one. So for this review then, we are going to go to Levide, which, if I'm pronouncing that right, Levide, not quite sure, but it's in the south kind of western part of the island, and of course it is home to Alskute Farm and Brewery. So as I said, this is going to be beer number 3 from these guys. This one is called the Big Island Lager. It comes in at 4.8% ABV, and apparently it has a little bit of New Zealand hop in it actually. So yeah, really curious to see how this one turns out. Hopefully it's another good beer from these guys, and yeah, as I've told you before, I have been really enjoying my lager beers over the last little while. The last two beers that I had from these guys were, the last one was the Vow of Silence, which was a Belgian quadruple, which was nicely done, and then before that it was the Breakfast Stout, but I can't remember exactly what the name of it was, if it was just Breakfast Stout. But yeah, I did enjoy both of those beers, and then when I saw that these guys were doing a lager, I thought, well, let's have a go at it and see what it's like. So yeah, fingers crossed this is another good beer from Alskute. The beer scene, from what I understand, in Gotland has really been kicking off over the last little while. They do have a Gotland beer festival, so who knows, maybe I can get over there for the next one and have a look at some of the different beers and breweries and things like that. That would be really cool. But I think I have reviewed a good number of the different breweries from Gotland so far actually. So yeah, there probably will be a few more now because there's always new breweries opening up. But yeah, I will keep an eye out and see what things are available from Gotland actually. I'll have a little look on Systembolaget and see what we can get. But yeah, really cool to see these guys doing a lager beer this time, so fingers crossed it's a good one, and like I said, I hope that you guys enjoy my take on this beer as well. Interesting with the New Zealand hops as well, I'm a bit of a sucker for those. But yeah, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting, just fast forward. All the usual links are in the description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Alskute Farm and Brewery before. No doubt you will see some more from these guys in the fairly near future. There's all the usual social media down there as well. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The whole channel, of course, has a geography-based tagging system, so you can go into the homepage and search for beer based on country, city, state, county, province, prefecture, whatever it is you're interested in. Do check out the playlists of beers from different countries. There is one there for all the Swedish beers that I've reviewed for you. That's constantly being added to, and as always, please do get in touch and let me know some of the other beers and breweries that you guys would like to see me review. It's always great to hear from you guys that are watching the videos, and the support that you show the channel is hugely appreciated. So anyway, on to my brewery notes then to tell you a little bit about Alskute Farm and Brewery. So Alskute Farm and Brewery, as I've told you before, is owned by Englishman Bruce Todd and his wife Linda, who I believe is Swedish. I think she's actually from Gotland and that's why they live there. But they moved back to Gotland in 2012, and they were kind of working on the family farm and stuff like that, and then the brewery was started up a bit later in 2017, and it's based in a converted tractor shed at the farm in Levide, as I said, in the kind of southwesternish part of Gotland. It's almost directly south of Visby actually. I've heard it's a very nice city, that actually. But these guys produce their own hops. They started with a modest plantation of only 200, and there's evidence that hops have been produced on this site since 1734, and the brewery also produced their own Gotlandsdrike as well, which is it's a little bit like Finnish sati actually, a little bit smoky, a little bit kind of junipery, and yeah, it would be quite cool to try that one at some point. I'll have a look on Systembolaget and see if we can get that, but to try a few Gotlandsdrikes, that is something that I really need to have a look at actually, so we will see about doing that at some point in the future. But these guys have a series of beers called the Gotland Hop Series, and this uses all of their own hops, and it's mainly Cascade and Magnum. But there are a few different local varieties that these guys have produced as well. So again, hopefully that's something I can do on the channel over the next little while. But over the last few years, they've just gradually been kind of growing up their capacity with a few more tanks and things like this, and they have been kind of building up their customer base and stuff like that as well. Their beers are available nationwide throughout Systembolaget now, and yeah, that's why I can get a hold of them here in Skåne, in the south of the country. But as of September 2020, when I'm producing this review for you, these guys have produced around 30 different kinds of beer, and there's a whole variety of different styles in there. There's quadruples, there's breakfast stouts, there's IPAs, paleos, a few lager beers and stuff like this. So yeah, that's one of the really cool things about this brewery. They're producing their own hops and producing their own Gotland strike as well, and they are trying a lot of different styles of beer. So yeah, it's pretty cool to see that. You know, back in the day, a lot of the breweries in Sweden were farmhouse breweries, so it's quite cool to see that more and more of the little farms are starting to brew their own beer. I think it's really cool. I think there's somewhere in the region of 600 breweries in Sweden these days, and these guys were one of the first ones actually that I discovered from Gotland, come to think of it. So yeah, that's all I can really tell you about Alskute Farm and Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website. You can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can of course check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn more about all of the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, pretty cool that actually. Nice to be able to review some different beers from Gotland for you. I think there's about 10 breweries or so on the island these days. I can't remember what the population is though, but Visby, in the summer it has the big medieval festival, which is definitely worth a visit, so hopefully I can get over there at some point and have a little look at that. But yeah, let's have a look at this beer then and see how we get on. Hopefully, as I say, I can go to Gotland at some point and maybe visit these guys. It'd be quite cool to do a little meet the brewery segment on them actually. But yeah, as you can see, the artwork on this one is a little bit different compared to the other ones we've had from Alskute before. You can see there's more of a kind of painted background there on the back, which I have to say is very, very nice. I do like the artwork on this one. You can see the kind of pine, I don't know, would it be, is that spruce? Not sure what tree exactly that's meant to be. It's been a long while since I learned all about the different trees in primary school and stuff like that. But yeah, nice kind of coniferous tree behind this one. The artwork, that painting is very, very nice actually, but you can see they call this one a surf-inspired lager, a surf-inspired island lager, and yeah, so the seaside artwork on this one, the waterfront artwork, is very, very nice. Plain red bottle cap on this one. Their Facebook page is actually listed as Red Cap Alskute, if I remember rightly, or Alskute Red Cap I think, and yeah, so this one should be quite cool. I know that this one has Waiti hops in it from New Zealand, which if I remember rightly are kind of limey but also a little bit orangey, so this should be quite interesting. But it says on the side here, Big Island Lager is a modern island lager with soft tropical notes from New Zealand hops, year-round, lazy island days wherever you are. So yeah, this one should hopefully be very, very nice. Like I said, 4.8% lager beer this one. Let's get it out and into the glass. I'm very curious to see what this beer has in store for us. So yeah, let's get it out and get on with the tasting then. So there we go. So definitely in terms of appearance, this is a Helles lager. There's no doubt about that. Yeah, really nice looking Helles beer, this one. So yeah, as you can see with this beer, it's poured a lovely kind of bright yellow. This could almost pass for like a pale ale or something like that, to be honest with you, an American New England pale ale type thing. But yeah, it's got a lovely little bit of haze to it. If we shine the light through that, it looks very nice. You can see there's a solid 2/3 finger of a frothy white head on this one. That's going to fade away to be quite a thin foamy layer, I'd think, but yeah, it does seem to be staying there for the moment. One or two big bubbles sticking towards the side of the glass, a few little ones going up towards the bottom of that head there, but I mean overall it does look pretty damn nice actually. So yeah, you can see if I put my fingers behind the glass there is a good degree of haze to this one, but of course it's nowhere near as hazy as some of these New England IPAs and double IPAs and stuff like that you are getting. But in fairness, in terms of its colour and its brightness and stuff like this one could pass for a New England pale ale or something like that. But you will find Helles lagers with this level of haze in Germany actually. The ones that I used to drink in Vetters and Kulturbrauerei when I was living in Heidelberg were pretty much this colour. Their Helles beers were very much like that. So yeah, good looking beer this one. Looks like a proper German Helles, this one I have to say, as well as, you know, a little bit of a New England pale ale. But yeah, let's have a look at the aroma of this one and see how we got on then. Nothing overly surprising about this beer in terms of its appearance. Oh yeah, straight away. This is that's a German Helles all the way, all the way. Yeah. The aroma of this one comes across. It really reminds me of some of these Brauhaus beers. Quite excited for this one now, I have to say. And one thing that would probably surprise you to know, if you don't already, is that a lot of German breweries, they actually do use a bit of American and a bit of New Zealand hops in their beers. I know that Kulturbrauerei in Heidelberg used to do it. They used a little bit of New Zealand hop in all of their different beers actually. So I really would recommend that you go and have a look at that. Ask you, if you're living in Germany, ask some of your local breweries where what country they have hops, or what the country of origin of their hops is, because there are quite a few that like to use the New Zealand hops as well. There's a hell of a variety down there, but yeah, the malt base on this one comes across as very authentically German. So yeah, lovely big, this one has a lovely big kind of white bready base to it. You can really smell that out of the beer straight away. You do get a little bit of, there is a wee bit of that kind of farmhousey yeasty kind of thing coming out of it too, one or two little woody notes, you know, a little bit of a grainy kind of thing. You really smell that towards the back of the nose. It's got a little bit, it's almost a little bit like some of these Vermont ale yeast strains that you can get these days. But of course when it's a lager beer, it will have to be a cold temperature fermentation, not a warm temperature fermentation. That is the main thing. But yeah, it does have a little bit of that kind of quality to it. I'd love to know what type of yeast they are actually using in this, because it definitely comes across as a little bit farmhousey in the aroma. When you sugar the beer up, you get a few kind of woody notes to it. You get a little bit of a kind of graininess in there as well. But yeah, I like how this one, I do like how the aroma in this beer goes together. So yeah, nice big white bready malt base. There's a little tiny bit of biscuit in there, but overall the malt base is really kind of quite bready and smooth, if you like. It's almost got a bit of crispness to it as well. There's not much else to that malty side of things. The biscuity notes are quite laid back. There's a wee, it is mainly the kind of middle part and the back part of your nose is really quite bready. There's a few little grainy notes at the back of the nose and a few of those little yeasty complexities that I was talking about. But in terms of maltiness, there's not too much to report on this one either. But the way the breadiness comes out in this is very authentic and sort of Helles, German Helles-like actually. So take a bit of time and just appreciate that when you get a hold of the beer. But the more you smell of it, you do get a wee touch of that biscuity, that kind of McVitie's digestive biscuity quality coming out of the beer. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things then, there's a wee touch of earthiness coming out of this one. I wouldn't be surprised if there is a German hop in there as well as one of the New Zealand hops. We've got a little fruit fly going around the place. But yeah, with this one you get a nice little bit of earthiness there. There's a good little bit of floral character, but for me, the green side of the hops in this one, it really leans towards the grassy side of things actually. There's almost a little bit of a kind of herbally sort of thing, but the more that I smell of this beer, I really get more woodiness and more kind of vegetal notes from the yeast coming out of it. So that's really interesting actually, I have to say. Yeah, but definitely on the green side of the hops really lean towards that kind of grassy side of things. But yeah, on the fruity side of it then, yeah, it's quite limey. So YET, as I said to you earlier, it's quite a limey hop generally speaking. There's a few little appley peary esters coming out of this one. There are maybe one or two little tiny orangey elements in there, but those are quite laid back. You know, for me, it is quite, as I say, it is quite limey. There's a few gooseberry notes to it, a little bit of an appley peary ester, and you've got a wee bit of a kind of lemony, kind of grassy note in there as well. But yeah, the aroma of this beer is really quite interesting actually. So yeah, take a little bit of time and just appreciate that aroma. I mean, this one, as I say, it's very kind of, it really has a lot of kind of German Helles type qualities to it. It does have a few sort of New England pale ale notes from the yeast, I have to say, which is quite interesting. I didn't expect that from it, but then the hops in this one, if you know the YET hop, it's a little bit less orangey than I think you can usually find from YET. I always remember YET having a good bit of orange to it, but yeah, YET does have mainly a limey character, and you get a lot of that out of this, along with a few gooseberry, peary type esters as well. So yeah, take a bit of time and enjoy that, but we're going to have a taste of this beer now and see how we get on. So this one is the Big Island Lager, coming in at 4.8% ABV from Alskute Farm and Brewery in Levide on the island of Gotland, kind of in the southwest of the island. I do wonder if Big Island is you know, I think that probably is for Gotland actually, I think it's the biggest Swedish island if I remember rightly. But yeah, pretty cool. Let's get stuck into this one then. Definitely nice to have a lager from these guys after quite a while. Let's get stuck in. Slanje Skål. Oh yeah, that is quite nice actually, I have to say. It really does come across as quite as quite, as quite Helles-like for sure. 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 As quite Yeah, absolutely. This one for me, it is really. I've had some really nice lagers over the last while, different Helles ones. This is definitely one of those more kind of bready Munich type Helles beers. But yeah, for sure, this has got that kind of German Brauhaus type character to it. Actually, very small batch brewed. It's this is nicely done. I'm going to say thumbs up to Alskute for this one. I would. I mean, yeah, I don't know. I mean, maybe on the islands and stuff, the tropical islands like that, they'd be more inclined to drink a pilsner and things like that for the kind of hot weather and stuff. But yeah, the Helles beer like this, I think goes down very, very nicely. So yeah, this is pretty damn cool actually. But yeah, for me, this really reminds me of the kind of Helles beers that I'd get at the likes of Ice Group in Mainz when I was visiting Einar. You know, Kulturbrauerei and Vetters and Heidelberg, you know, it really reminds me of those actually. So this beer is a little bit nostalgic for me, so I will say thumbs up to Alskute for that. That's pretty awesome. But yeah, it's one of these beers that I think is really a straight shooter actually. The other thing that I will point out about it is that those yeasty, kind of notes, that kind of vegetally herbal and kind of woody, grainy type note from the yeast, you don't get any of that in the flavour with this beer. You don't get any of that coming out of this one. This is a straight up, big, bready and smooth German type Helles beer, all the way. All the way. But yeah, I like this one. It's a very straight shooting beer, this, but sometimes that's what you want, and they have done this very, very well. I would be more inclined to market this as a, you know, a German Helles or something like that, a German style Helles. It really is very like these Brauhaus beers. I think this is one of the closest ones I've found actually to some of those Brauhaus beers that I used to drink outside of Germany. And so yeah, awesome, awesome. As I say, this is my third good beer that I've had from these guys. So these guys know what they're doing. It's pretty cool actually. But yeah, let's try and break down the flavour of this beer and see how we go. So straight away with this one, you're going to get that nice kind of pale malty bready quality, that blankets the middle of your tongue. What you will, pardon me, get a bit of gas off it, but what you will feel from this beer as you go further and further into the aftertaste with it, the breadiness, it does kind of smoothen out a little bit. The back third of your tongue, on that back third of your tongue, the bread is distinctively kind of thicker there actually. It's got a lovely kind of smoothness that develops a little bit later on. You do get a few little bits of kind of spiciness out of it as well, which is quite nice. But yeah, I really like how the kind of bready qualities come out of this one. This is really nicely done. But yeah, for me, I really like what they're doing with this beer. I have to say, it's pretty awesome. But yeah, in terms of the the rest of the malt base, like I say, it's a bit thicker on the kind of back third of your tongue. It does have a wee touch of kind of spiciness out of it. It almost tastes a little bit wheaty, but I think that's the yeastiness that's giving it the big kind of thicker quality at the back, on the back third of the palate. But as you move further forward, the middle third of your palate feels as if it's a little bit lighter and a bit more crisp. On top of that kind of bready thing, there's a wee bit of a kind of light biscuity quality coming out of this one. It does have a little bit of that McVitie's digestive biscuity sort of thing, but it's not really kind of sweet and almost caramelly as it can sometimes be. It is just a nice little bit of a crisp biscuity quality there. Underneath you will get one or two little slightly woody, grainy undertones from the yeast, but very, very minimal compared to what the aroma would have you believe. But yeah, overall, the malt base in this one is really, for me, very kind of smooth and also very bready. A little bit thicker at the back, like I said, just a wee touch kind of sweeter in the middle of the palate. So yeah, I like how that goes together in this one. The malt base is really nicely done, and as I say, very reminiscent of the kind of Brauhaus Helles lager beers that I would have drunk over in Germany. But yeah, on the hoppy side of things with this beer then, in the back corners of the palate there is a wee touch of earthiness there. As you move further forward along the sides of the palate, it does get a little touch herbal, and then as you reach the front corners of the palate, it's a little bit more kind of grassy and floral, and then round the very front curve of the tongue, the beer is just that little bit lighter and grassy for me. It's very kind of straight up. It leans more towards that grassy side of things generally, which I quite like. But yeah, there is a wee touch of floral spiciness and aromaticity on the front corners of the palate. On the front third of the tongue then, that's where you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters roll out of the beer. And again, this one is pretty straight shooting. If you know Waiti, this one really leans more towards the kind of limey side of it. As I say, sometimes you can get a wee bit of orange out of this hop, from what I remember. But yeah, Motueka I remember, and Waiti were always the more kind of limey ones that you would get from New Zealand. But yeah, it's really got a nice limey character to it. But yeah, if you go towards the back of that front third of your palate, you do get a wee bit of a slightly stronger citrus, but as you come further forward, it really starts to become kind of gooseberry and peary. It's a kind of, for me, it's quite a mixture of gooseberry and peary, and then as you reach the kind of front part of that front third of your tongue, it's a little bit more oily and a little bit more kind of limey in my mind, actually. So I really like how that side of it goes together, and as you reach the kind of front third of your, the kind of very front tip of your tongue, sorry, it's got a little bit more of a kind of lemony, lemon-limey kind of citrusy zest kind of thing to it, which I really like, actually. I like how that goes together in this one. So yeah, pretty cool. But yeah, this one for me, it goes together really quite nicely in a lot of ways. So yeah, the way that everything goes together in this one for me is really nicely done. Like I said, flavour profile wise, this reminds me of the Helles that I would have in Vetters, and also the how do you say it, and also the Kulturbrauerei in Heidelberg. It's a very nostalgic beer for me, this one. I really like this, so thumbs up, as I say, to Alskute for this. I would say definitely a kind of very bready Helles lager, and really quite just light and citrusy, actually. I like how that goes together, quite gooseberry-like, quite peary, and then just a good bit of lime out of it as well. The New Zealand hops complement this one really nicely. A lot of New Zealand hops are lower in their alpha acid than you might believe. Quite a few of them are around kind of 7-8%. It's only really Nelson Sauvin and one or two others that kind of are beasts, to be honest with you. But yeah, you get some lovely fruity flavours out of these Kiwi hops, and I can see exactly why they would want to use them in something like this. A lot of the German brewmasters in these brauhouses do that, like I said. But yeah, in terms of the mouthfeel of this one then, this is a kind of top end of light bodied, bottom end of mid bodied beer. It's kind of around there. The carbonation is quite, it does have a degree of crispness to it, but otherwise it's very smooth. It does have that typical German type smoothness to it, like I said. But overall I'd say the mouthfeel quite smooth, a little bit wet. And yeah, I do like how it goes together. But on the hoppy bitterness side of things, I think this one is kind of typically about 20 IBUs, something like that. Yeah, this one, yeah, about 20 IBUs. It's not going to blow the head off you in terms of bitterness. The malt base is really quite nice and smooth. It does get a little bit sweeter. You do get a little bit of a biscuit sweetness coming out of this one the further that you go into the aftertaste with it, which is quite nice. And yeah, on the fruity side of things, it's got a little touch of an oily character to it. It's a wee bit juicy as well, but it leans towards that kind of gooseberry, peary, and kind of limey quality as well. So it's quite a citrusy leaning sort of Helles lager beer, this one. But for me, I really like how this goes together. It's very, very nicely done. So I'm going to say thumbs up to Alskute once again for this. I've been impressed with all three beers I've had from these guys: the Breakfast Stout, the Vow of Silence Quadruple, and now this one, the Lager beer. I need to have a look and see what else they've got. And, you know, maybe an IPA probably has to be the next port of call for these guys, because I've still never tried an IPA from them. So maybe if we can get one with some of their Gotland hops in it, I think that would be a nice fourth review, actually. So I'll have a look at Systembolaget after this one and see what we can get. But yeah, this was a really nicely done lager beer, and I think yeah, this one, it might be better marketed as a German type Helles lager rather than an island lager. But the artwork and everything that they have on this is really very, very nice, actually. But yeah, it's a very nicely done beer, and that's the main thing. We can sit and debate about sub-styles all day, but the main question should be, is it a good beer? And I think it is. I think this is a very nice example of a sort of German type Helles lager. So for me, it gets a thumbs up. And I would recommend that you guys try this one if you're into your German style Brauhaus beers, actually. So yeah, let's leave it at that. This one was the Big Island Lager, coming in at 4.8% ABV from Alskute Farm and Brewery in Levide on Gotland. A really nicely done beer, this one, and I look forward to my next review from these guys. Always really cool to review beers from these very small breweries. But yeah, let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comment section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Alskute Farm and Brewery. Let me know some of the other beers from Gotland that you guys would like to see me review, and I will keep an eye out for what those guys are releasing as well. But yeah, thank you again for watching, and I will catch you guys very soon. The Big Island Lager, 4.8% ABV from Alskute Farm and Brewery in Levide on Gotland. A lovely kind of German style Helles Brauhaus type lager from me. Slàinte, skål, cheers, make sure you check out Alskute and have a go at the Big Island Lager. Cheers.